basically fuck over as many people as possible. And we're actually live on Terra Firma TV, just as I say that.
So you all know what's coming. There you go.
Yep.
That's it already.
You better duck. Can everyone just quickly introduce themselves? We'll go from left to right.
Hi, Hunnick Outcast here from Hunnick Outcasts.
Cool. Next one.
Who's up next? Are you up next, Jeff?
Go ahead.
The order keeps changing at the bottom of my screen. All right. Go ahead, man. You're full screen now. Go.
All right. I'm Jeff. I'm independent filmmaker and writer from Cellar Dweller Films, and I just do this stuff on the side to have fun.
All right. I'm Dave the Clone from the Hollow Knight Network, and I do a lot of podcasts about TV shows and movies, and I'm a big fan of Mr. Romero. So big thanks to Mr. Carson for having me on again. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, always welcome. It's always great to have you on. Let's see. So, as we all know, George Romero passed away 2 days ago.
Rest in peace, man.
Yeah.
Still getting over it.
A huge legacy in films, and not just the Living Dead series, obviously. They worked on other stuff, which is, you wouldn't fucking know if you actually read any articles that's been published on him. It's like his career fucking ended after Day of the Dead with most of them.
I posted stuff about Monkey Shines, and everybody goes, "Oh, he directed that? I forgot about that." I'm like, it's not just zombies. He did monkeys with symbols too.
There's also a little thing called Creepshow that he worked on with Mr.
Yeah.
Sting. That was fucking hilarious and terrifying, and part of growing up too. Like, I think anyone who grew up in the last 30 years is, whether they know it or not by name, are acquainted with a lot of his work.
And let's not forget Tales from the Dark Side, the movie and the TV show.
Fucking
let's
love
forget about that TV show.
Yes. The show is awesome.
Well, maybe 1 or 2 episodes. Yeah.
Come on, the first episode is like a classic. Will always be amazing. That first Trick or Treat episode that he directed.
Oh, yeah.
That was really good.
I Can't Help But Saying Goodbye. That was another good episode.
Excuse me.
But, yeah, I mean, Romero, I have to say, I'm not surprised that he's gone, because I've seen him in interviews where he smoked like a chimney. So I can't. I knew eventually he was going to go, but he always felt like too cool for school. And I love his story that his uncle had that 8mm camera and never knew how to use it. So he said, "George, here, you just take it." And he ended up making commercials and eventually just made Night of the Living Dead out of happenstance. And unfortunately, ever since he's made this movie, there is, I believe, a curse, because he had an opportunity to buy the farmhouse. But they figured, well, this movie's never going to pick up, so the farmhouse got demolished after the movie was made. They forgot to put the copyright on the poster, so the movie's public domain. Martin Luther King Jr. got shot.
Find it on Terra Firma YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Nice.
Martin Luther King Jr. got shot.
I know that. I'm stealing it too. I'm sorry, dude. Go. Keep going. Apologies.
Yeah, Martin Luther King Jr. got shot just when Ben got shot, and they wouldn't change the ending. And Columbia was ready to buy it, and they said no because they wanted to give the happy ending, which I'm sure you heard about that one. And, yeah, I mean, ever since then, he just became a very bitter man, and he had to just keep trying to do what he did with the original Night of the Living Dead to, well, death. I don't know if you ever watched Survival or Diary without the audio commentary, but he gets more bitter and angry, and he doesn't know what he wants to say anymore with those last 2 films. I know he was trying to work on one final one called Of the Dead, but I don't know exactly what it was supposed to entail. Something where it's supposed to have like a 21st century feel to it, where it's going to be Barbara and Johnny again, but it's something in kind of like Night of the Dead with a high-rise. But it was not going to be Miller or anything. Was there one after Land of the Dead where they already had kind of the high rise that Dennis Hopper was running? Because that was definitely George Romero's Land of the Dead, was finally him kind of taking back over anything called Living Dead. You know what I mean? But was there anything after that, before this one, that was supposedly on the way out? Well, like I said, after Land of the Dead, you had Diary of the Dead that showed in like maybe 40 theaters, went right to DVD. It tried to go all Blair Witch, but it wasn't working. It was supposed to take place during the time that the outbreak actually happened. So Barbara and Johnny were in the cemetery, and now you get the idea. Survival is supposedly a sequel, but it's taking place in Delaware. It seems that like while the outbreak is happening, it takes place in different parts of the country. And
I was
like,
like shot in the head if I was in Delaware.
It's like, hi, I'm in Delaware.
Yeah. I bet
Very rarely you get to apply that joke. That's awesome.
But yeah, there's that CGI movie that Money for Nothing. The music video had better animation. If you could find it, there's this Living Dead CGI with Tony Todd and from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, who played Chop Top, who was in the 1990 version of Night of the Living Dead. He played Johnny. I forget his name right now. The tip of my tongue. He was not
Matthew McConaughey. Was that Matthew McConaughey's part?
No,
I never watched the new one, the Next Generation.
No, it was just the second movie, the second Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He played Johnny in the 1990 version of Night of the Living Dead. He's also known as Chop Top. I can't remember the actor's name, but he was in this Night of the Living Dead CGI movie that came out.
Cool.
And I didn't know there was a CGI one.
Yeah.
At that point, why don't you just reboot it like they've rebooted every fucking thing else?
Yeah.
Oh, they did. They did. In fact, there's Night of the Living Dead Genesis.
I was talking more like maybe like a whole other studio, like Blumhouse or somebody, just kind of like, pick it up and run with it in a whole new fashion.
They don't want to. They feel that because it was independent, they want independent filmmakers to work on it. So there's Genesis, and it deals with Barbara actually surviving. And then Judith O'Dea, who played Barbara in the original, she's this old woman, and she's telling the story while she's in an insane asylum. That's all I got.
I did not know that.
All Living Dead stuff is on the ground now. We can go into a different direction because he did do other things.
Yep.
Night Riders.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always Vanilla.
Martin. That's a good film.
I had a chance.
Go ahead, man.
A chance to meet him briefly when he was working on the Dark Half outside of Pittsburgh, and I had been interning at the Pittsburgh Film Office because, believe it or not, early 90s there were no digital photography, so everything we were taking pictures for locations, and we had to tape them together to make these panoramic things. And so I'm sitting at a table with about 1,000 photographs in front of me, and I hear someone's voice come in. They're talking about this movie and Timothy Hutton and stuff, and I'm like, oh, that kind of sounds like George Romero. So I peeked around the corner, and sure enough, there he was standing right there talking to the receptionist and director of the film office. And I just kind of stood there like, oh my God, it's God himself, And so, it was a business setting, so I didn't get a chance to have the picture and the autograph and all that, but nice to meet you, But that's kind of my George Romero story.
I saw him from across a big room full of people at a convention once.
That's the closest I got. I mean, I was supposed to see him at the Days of the Dead convention that just happened a couple weeks ago, but he backed out of that apparently at the time when that happened. I remember looking at my wife going, "Oh, this isn't good. Something's going to happen." I just felt it, But yeah.
Well, I found like every celebrity I've met, the reality of like, oh crap, okay, you're like normal people like us, you've aged, and like I keep picturing you in my head the way I see you in all your movies and the movies I grew up with. So it's definitely always jarring, like especially people like Stan Lee, where you're just like, holy fucking shit, dude. I mean, awesome, but holy fucking shit, dude. Shit. Like, what is keeping you together? Like the air? Like, I don't know how this is happening.
John Carpenter's the same way.
Excelsior.
Carpenter's kept together by bitterment, basically. He's just bitter as fuck, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's still. I mean, all these guys who are still doing it though, they're still cranking away. You know what I mean? They're still at least working until. It's the kind of field that you wouldn't mind working. Like, you know, everybody complains these days, oh, we can't retire. We're going to work till we die. I would love to make fucking movies until I die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I want to be in the middle of one when I die. Just be like, here, someone else finish this. Let's make a really cool collaborative thing.
Quite like Oliver Reed.
Yeah. Go ahead, enjoy finishing this without me, you fucks.
Hope you've got some extra room in that CGI budget.
Why don't you learn how to make faces that look like real people? I did not say I knew him. I said he touched me on the shoulder one time.
If it wasn't for Oliver Reed, you wouldn't have had like Avatar and stuff. Because that's where they developed that technology.
They're like, listen, fuckers are going to die mid-project. We need a way around this. We need a contingency plan. And meanwhile, then you have people like George R. R. Martin who are like, fuck you. I'm going to be around forever. I'm never going to finish these books.
Yeah, I had George Romero on my last podcast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was he a fun interview, or what was
it was a fun interview, yeah. He couldn't remember quite a lot about a lot of his films, which was quite fun. It was like I was carrying the conversation a little bit about what the plot was to some of them. And I'm like, you're fucking the writer of these. Everybody said to me at one point, I smoked a lot of doobies in the 70s, so my memory's hazy.
I just made a legendary film that everybody kind of, you know, apes and totally started a whole genre, but I really don't remember how or why. Just cool that it happened, that I can literally just pay for anything for no fucking reason. Oh, hey, I'll take it if I got it, you know. Take it.
Yeah.
I actually really like The Dark Half a lot. I think that's a movie that seems to get shit on when I hear people talking about movies, but I'm like, really? Because that, maybe it's just, I don't know if you guys are, I mean, I know anybody who writes is always like, how fucking crazy would it be if one of my characters came to life? And like, you know, I've written some twisted fucking people. What would happen? And I just thought that was just a really, the way it was shot, everything, it kind of holds up. If you watch it now, you could kind of give it a period understanding. And Timothy Hutton is cool, man. I always liked he's a cool guy. Yeah. So that's one where he gets to shine a little bit.
I had a bootleg VHS version of that movie before it actually hit theaters, because there was that whole mess with Orion Pictures when they went bankrupt and belly up, and they were supposed to distribute it. So a buddy of mine used to pass off these really horrible fourth generation VHS copies. And I saw it like, you know, 2 years before.
The FBI warnings exactly against doing just that. The FBI warnings there for a reason.
I'm sure he's probably still bootlegging too. But yeah, the ending was completely different than what we saw in theaters too. I don't know if the studio made him change it, but all I remember is death. Like he like the writer character that came to life does. He gets carried away by the birds on a cross. And it goes out into like the sky, and I'm just like, really? It was just, the rest of the movie was good, but that ending scene where the birds carry him like a crucified Timothy Hutton, and just like, no. So I was relieved to see that you know, whoever's decision it was to reshoot that ending, whether it was Romero's or probably the studio's, at least it was a little more punch to it, I guess, or pecking, I guess you could say.
Yeah, they have found a beak through that. I mean, it was very similar, though. It kind of looks stigmata-ish.
Yeah, but I mean, the birds actually carried him away, and there was this sad music, and, you know, it was just like, God, this is the Hallmark Channel now, way of George Romero, you know?
Was that supposed to imply that the good version of him was leaving and that the bad version was still going to be left around? Like, kind of like the way the new Twin Peaks is all evil Cooper running around right now?
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, hey, fuck it. It's been on for 10 weeks, 12 weeks.
Yep.
And everyone knows bad Cooper. Everybody knows Cooper was bad at the end of season 2. You know, I got into a huge fight with somebody over this shit, over spoiling like that, and I was like, really, fucker, listen, Game of Thrones has been on for 6 seasons, and at this point, you just know. Stay off of Facebook for 3 days if you didn't fucking watch that shit.
And if you haven't watched it in 6 years, you're probably not going to watch it at all.
All of a sudden now, like, fuck you, Red Wedding, a bunch of people die. A bunch of people die at the Red Wedding. It's going to fucking happen.
Yeah, it's with me with spoilers, it's basically, fuck you. I do episodes that are basically just complete spoilers of what happens in movies when I shit on them. So if you don't like spoilers, don't listen to my show.
That's kind of what it is. It's to me, it's very much the same argument as like the religious right trying to be like, they can't have whatever they want on TV. They can only watch what we want. It's like, wait, you're denouncing this entire medium because there's something that's objectionable to you. You don't have to fucking watch it, man. Let everybody make their decisions.
There's plenty of channels out there. Pick a different one.
I mean, I'm sure they were pissed about Romero stuff. It did not probably sit well with them. That like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of flesh-eating zombies.
Well, but the world. If you think in it, that's basically the Jesus story. After like they've crucified him, he's a zombie.
He's a zombie.
He's like original zombie.
He's patient zero. When there is no more room in hell, the dead shall roam the earth. Oh wow. The revelations that come out on Terra Firma TV.
That's why I get so much hate on Twitter.
Oh shit! Is Donkey Punch for life with us tonight, or
Donkey Punch? I was just gonna say.
I've already got about 50 questions from him.
Yeah, Donkey Punch for life.
The majority of them aren't particularly nice. They're all about like jokes. So
they're not even helping the conversation move forward.
They're getting kind of ignored.
Sorry, dude. DP, King Donko of Punchstania. Get your shit together.
It was like literally the day it was announced that George Romero died, he made a joke about now him and Wes Craven can do that movie that they're going to shoot in 1983 together.
That is pretty cool, though. I mean, it's the same kind of joke everyone was making when Prince passed away, and then Lemmy, and then David Bowie, and it's like, well, shit, there is a crazy concert going on in heaven right now. I wish I was at that. But whatever that means.
Michael Jackson's getting blown by bubbles again.
Oh, God. Wow.
That's going to have offended someone, but fuck it.
That's a lot of Michael Jackson defenders out there, man. Be careful.
Yeah. I'm a pedophile. What they like. And they say I'm offensive.
Yeah, well, we all have our moments.
Yep, but they're not buggering kids while we're having those moments, so...
This is true. At least we have that much control. Wow.
Yeah.
Did Romero do any movies about that? I'm like, let's go to the Wikipedia and find it.
He did an O.J. Simpson documentary. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Juice on the Loose. Great title.
Juice on the Loose, that's right.
It's weird, these oddball projects that these guys say. I just need to break genre, man. I can't be the zombie guy for why, dude. You started.
Didn't Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm good.
I thought I heard somewhere he did documentaries for the local PBS station out there in Pittsburgh before doing all this too, and
yeah,
he did light bulbs or something, light bulb manufacturing or something like that. I saw like, wow.
Well, yeah, he actually surprisingly directed a few episodes of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood back in the day.
That's right.
So it's not because he started off in Pittsburgh, so he was working on these light bulb commercials and these construction crew ice cream-esque commercials where a construction crew were up on the rooftop riveting and they decided to take a break and have ice cream. He had the camera, he had fun with it, and then he said one day, let's make a movie. Now, interesting enough, and I don't have this on paper anymore, but if you can get your hands on the Millennial edition of Night of the Living Dead, which is that red box with the tombstone on it, apparently Night of the Living Dead was supposed to be a comedy. And it was supposed to be about alien invaders, and it kind of transitioned from these garbage pail-esque aliens coming down to Earth and having one of them made out of garbage called the Mess, and they're supposed to be like hippies versus aliens. And then apparently it just turned into Night of the Living Dead after being rewritten several times. I mean, originally Ben was supposed to be white and a trucker and an asshole. And apparently they knew this guy Dwayne Reed, and Dwayne Reed was very very well spoken, and they said, you know what?
Change that.
Yeah. These were people that were either friends of Romero or community theater actors, and apparently,
Right.
I used to think as a kid that when you shot a movie, it was bam, 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 bam. I didn't realize that, no, you shot scene one version, 12, 6 weeks later. Like, apparently, according to Judith O'Day, they did the cemetery scene, took 6 weeks off, and then would go to the farmhouse. So they didn't just film it, and because it feels like this was done within, 3 weeks or whatever. No, this took about several months before they finally got it done. And the farmhouse, they just went up to it and said, we want to shoot a movie. And the farmer's like, well, we're going to burn it down anyway. Do whatever you want with it. So, and as for the basement of the farmhouse, that's not the actual basement. Apparently the cellar in the actual farmhouse was extremely small. So the scenes where they shot the cellar were their office building in Pittsburgh. And there was an actual cellar that's where they shot. And apparently they had all this memorabilia. They had the outtakes and the blooper reel and everything. And they said, like, one day we're going to show this. I mean, back then it was before VHS or DVD. And sadly there was a flood and all that footage was destroyed. So that's why you don't see any Night of the Living Dead outtakes or bloopers or deleted scenes. And what they did was, for reasons I don't understand, in 1998 they did this 30th anniversary edition. And I thought it was supposed to be, okay, we're actually going to get those scenes, or they're going to reenact it. No. They never show the scene when Ben talks about wasting the zombies at the diner. He talks about it, but they never. Instead, it's just an origin of that graveyard zombie. And it's just more zombies walking around, and we have this new preacher character that was bitten by a zombie, but he may or may not be zombie now. He's claiming it's the apocalypse. So there's really nothing new on that. And unfortunately, other than the documentary One for the Fire, there's really nothing new for the original. And again, if you like Dawn or Day, more power to you for Day. I like the documentary. I like Bub. I think that's the nice thing you can say about it. But past all of it, I mean, I love Creepshow. I've watched it more times than probably anybody else. I burned out my VCR because I've watched that movie so many times. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, Monkey Shines, how can you go wrong? It's about a helper monkey gone mad and then a overbearing mother. So, I mean, it's gold. But I haven't seen it since theaters. So, is it out on DVD or... Because people seem to like poo-poo Monkey Shines for some reason.
I think it's on DVD.
I think it's like
I'm pretty sure it is.
I think it's streaming on Amazon. You can rent it. There's I think one of the big movie podcasts, like How Did This Get Made, did a podcast about it. So if they did it, it's definitely findable on iTunes or some shit. They always actually complain about what a pain in the ass it is to find some of these movies sometimes. But yeah, I think even Creepshow, I think, gets its fair share of being just ignored or even just full on shit on. It's definitely got a look to it. You know what I mean? It's definitely got I think some of it probably struggles to hold up against time a little bit. But I think again, how much does nostalgia save a lot of these, or how much is it like this was something put out by this visionary guy that automatically gets put on the pedestal with everything else they do?
Thing is, though, you go back and watch any movie that's a certain age nowadays, because we're so used to bloody quick editing and all that shit. You go back and watch The Godfather.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How fucking long does it take for the story to actually start?
Oh, dude, have you seen the one that they've recut that's like 8 hours long? It's like the first two combined, and you kind of wonder, like, yeah, we're in this society where we don't have the attention span for this, and they just put together and like a full on. It takes you half a day to watch this fucking thing. You could go to work, or you could watch the whole Godfather. Did
you see the one where I can't remember what they're called? It was a YouTube channel. They took all the outtakes from Godfather 1 and 2, spliced it all together, made a movie, and added themselves into scenes.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they get
awesome.
To fuck.
I gotta watch that. That's still visible on YouTube, or did they get sued out of it?
They got sued to fuck. They took it down.
I bet they would.
And then put it back up on a different channel. but they put it up private and were selling the link to it private.
No shit. Nice.
Yeah, so they got fucked again.
Yeah. I was gonna say, you're playing with fire, but whatever, man. Stick it to the man.
Back to Creepshow.
Yeah. Please.
You know, it may not hold up well because, you know, some of the effects look kind of corny and whatnot, and by whatever today's standards are, but I think it fits the whole look of the movie. I mean, you're dealing with comic book source material from EC Comics, and you know, how much more crazy can you get, you know, when Leslie Nielsen screams and you have blue swirls behind him, you know, with the lighting effects and stuff like that. So when Fluffy comes out of the crate,
is that
look fake, but
two? The him with the Leslie Nielsen scene.
That's a part one. Part one.
I always thought that was in two. I fucking love that.
Yeah, that was one with Ted Danson.
Yeah. Shit was
part two doesn't really exist as far as I'm concerned.
Hey, come
the
on.
less we talk about part three, the better. Yeah, but
I didn't know there was a three, but definitely the Wrapped in part two makes it worth watching.
The Wrapped is worth watching.
He stated that he wanted to do like 20 creep shows after the first one. He had a good relationship with Stephen King and with makeup artist, of course, Tom Motherlovin Savini. But the problem was that Romero had all these ideas, and the studio, there were so many different excuses. One of them being budget, one of them being the MPAA. So Romero, as you know, with Land of the Dead, he had like this NC-17 version of Land of the Dead. And the MPAA said, no, cut this, take this out. We're going to CGI over this. We're going to CGI over that. So even from 1980 till the time that Romero died, he just got fed up and decided to go to TV and do Tales from the Dark Side. And eventually we got Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, but again, I think the problem is Romero had all these great ideas, but I go back to our good friends at the MPAA that just don't understand violence and they don't understand gore, and these are fictional characters. And again, I would watch Tom and Jerry cartoons. Doesn't mean I was going to go out and stab a cat. I knew it was going to do that. Yeah, I'll scream. Like
sure you won't.
So,
we know all about you, Deadpool.
Spoken like a true serial killer.
But yeah, I don't know what else to say about Creepshow, but every single story in that movie worked. You had two great bookends. You had Father's Day and you had They're Creeping Up on You. Even Stephen King, who admitted that he's not a great actor or director, because we all saw Maximum Overdrive, unfortunately.
I love the exploding toilet paper.
He works as Jordy Verrill for some reason. It feels like a one-man show. And as for the famous one, I think everybody loves Something to Tide You Over with Leslie Nielsen and of course, Sam, the bartender from Cheers.
Yeah,
I have the documentary Just Desserts, and apparently we had Ted Danson, and I forget who plays his lover. When they were the seaweed creatures, they would start talking like hillbillies, like off, before they start rolling film. So Tom Savini finally took a camera, and he started to film them as they were doing this. They had a lot of fun, and again, this was Leslie Nielsen before he became Frank Drebin. So Romero knew who he could work with and why. It was amazing. Romero just would go up to a mall and go, "This is my next zombie movie. Oh, we're going to what is it? The mines in Pittsburgh. These famous mines. They had an underground lake. That's where they have all the government cheese. If you ever watch Day of the Dead, and you know where Colonel Rhodes and his troops are, that's actually an office in the mines in Pittsburgh. So even though they claim that it's the bunkers in Florida. So he knew where to get the great sets. And yes, those tunnels those aren't CGI, those aren't sets. Those are the actual tunnels in those mines in Pittsburgh. So he knew where to shoot and where to make a film. And I don't know why anybody else doesn't do what Romero does, because it works.
At Days of the Dead, at the Days of the Dead convention a couple weeks ago, the actor who played Bub was on stage, and he talked about those mines and how everybody was getting chronically sick and coughing and vomiting and God knows what else. So yeah, those mines were real apparently.
Oh yeah, they got black lung. Tom Savini said that they would have to take weeks off because there wasn't any air filtration.
So they got black lung. Yeah, this shit that literally nobody fucking else gets. These fucking guys were like, "We're going to work on this movie for Romero." I'm like, "Oh my fucking god, I've got an ancient disease." Like, holy shit.
20 years later, we're still
yeah, for real. Oh shit.
Yeah, which was amazing. So there were actors that were actually getting black lung and people were passing out because there was no filtration through these mines. As a matter of fact, there was one of them that kept going on forever that somebody just got him, one of the cars that Rhodes is on to get away from the zombies towards the end before he was ripped apart. He's driving through it. He said he'd been like 3-4 hours and he still never got to the end of the mine.
I wonder if they were like showing us secret shit that we weren't supposed to see. Like, oh yeah, this was the first place the Illuminati was going to run to when the giant asteroid hits Earth. But now, fucking George Romero used it in a movie, so we got to go build these things somewhere else. This one we were going to stay here, but we keep getting black lung, so fuck it, let them film a movie.
This was going to be Donald Trump's lair, but not more.
Son of a bitch! Son of a bitch! How dare you?
Donald Trump's lair is really hard to find because it's really understated, that big gold sign on the fucking side that says Trump Towers.
Zombie bunker here, and the arrow is giant pointing down. It's huge, my huge zombie bunker.
Yeah, does anybody have like a favorite Night of the Living Dead movie besides the original? Like, is there one that anybody can actually praise in this series?
I like the remake of Dawn of the Dead. I know that's sacrilege, but I like the Zack Snyder version. I mean, obviously, I like the original as well, but, it works. That one works as this standalone, the idea of you kind of holed up in a mall trying to, withstand the horde out there. And I think all the, Dead Rising, all the video games and all the other collateral that has come out that is sort of placed in that same scenario, it just works all the time. So I think that one, it's almost like the one they picked, A New Hope to start off Star Wars. They're like, this one works. Let's just grab this one and make this self-contained unit. And I like the idea that after we spent all this time with these people at the very end, like, yeah, and they're flying away and we'll see. And in the new one, it's like, yeah, and they're driving away and they're probably still fucked. Whatever. You know what I mean? And, I don't know. I kind of like that, but I still always land on actually that first Tales from the Dark Side and The Dark Half are like my two Romero standout favorite things.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the.
You haven't seen The Dark Half?
No, I read the book, but I keep putting off seeing the movie because.
Oh, you gotta see the movie.
I heard, but
you gotta see the movie, Hoss. You gotta see the movie.
Funny how no one's mentioned the Crazies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
there's the original.
Well, the original. I saw the remake like an idiot. I did. The Crazies is kind of like Night of the Living Dead, but it's just people that are infected and crazy. That's pretty much it. I mean,
title kind of says it all.
It doesn't lie to you. I'll give you that. You got me there. But no, the Crazies just seems like Romero, because he's so bitter that the Night of the Living Dead didn't get the copyright, and he just kept trying to put lightning in the bottle. But again, as we said, he's got Dark Half, he's got Creepshow, he's got Tales on the Dark Side, he's got Dawn of the Dead 78, he's got Land of the Dead. It's not like he had that crappy of a career. He did all the conventions.
I really liked Land of the Dead for what it was. You know what I mean? I think the lineup with the cast was awesome. I think, I just try to think of who some of these, like, I feel like, if you want to say that there was a Donald Trump analog, that's the Dennis Hopper character right there. Yeah. I think where I was suddenly ready to jump ship was where all of a sudden the zombies are developing speech and intelligence. And I'm like, well, what the fuck? I don't know. I mean, to me, it's kind of like the whole mystique about this was these like mindless, never-ending ocean of killing machines. It's the idea of the eventual catching up of death that you can't escape no matter what you hide inside of, no matter how big a building you hide in. You're gonna fucking die. At some point, that's gonna happen.
I always took Land of the Dead, the zombies were basically Republican voters.
I love this.
The speech that they were developing was when they were starting to realise Bush was a complete cunt and full of shit.
Oh my god!
And that's when they started to talk against the government. So that's what I thought he was showing.
and still though, the 1% are signified by a building wrapped in barbed wire that everybody above a certain floor is living in the lap of luxury, and everyone on the floor is like, "Oh fuck! I hope the zombies don't get in."
Well, it's King Koopa versus Luigi Mario versus clowns, so I can't really say. And that's the thing that kills me is that John Leguizamo, who was in Super Mario Brothers with Dennis Hopper, you would figure this would be a great Super Mario Brothers 2 movie in a way because there were.
Shit, that's awesome. I never put that together.
Yeah, I mean, it's Luigi Mario versus Koopa again, and of course there were all these Super Mario Brother mods that I've seen where people put in zombies instead of the Koopa Troopers. The problem is that for reasons unbeknownst to Romero, I guess he was so concerned about trying to go back to basics, he didn't think about in the 21st century we needed an anti-hero. John Leguizamo could have held the movie without White Bread and Skyflower and Slack and Doughboy and all those others. I love Dead Reckoning. I mean, here's the thing that kills me. Romero still was trying to bring new things to the table. He did that with Dawn. He did that with Day. But there was something that kept tripping over the finish line. I love Bub. I mean, you say that zombies shouldn't talk, but I like this idea that Frankenstein, he was right. There aren't enough bullets to kill the zombies. We don't know really how to defeat the zombies. Let's see if we can get them to at least be civilized, and that's what Bub was doing. They didn't bring him back because there's no continuity, so we'll bring in the next big thing. We'll bring in Big Daddy. But the problem is that a lot of people have complained that Big Daddy, okay, you're right. The zombies are trying to hold on to what they were when they were alive. The same thing with Dawn. They want to go back to the mall. That's why they're going to the mall. Here, they want to play in a band or they want to deliver mail, or Big Daddy, he hears the bell from the gas station. He was a gas station attendant, and that's what he knew what to do. Him having a gun, yeah, it's like giving a bear a chainsaw. I hear what you're saying. You don't need to give the perfect killing machine an upgrade. It may sound cool, but only in comic book logic. Big Daddy, I think if they would have found a way where, like kind of like the original Planet of the Apes, where they would have had some of the apes and humans working together, and then the other side, or dare I say it, zombie versus zombie, instead of zombie versus human, I would have enjoyed that too. But Romero, for some reason, he still had some great ideas with Land, and I think the ideas died. I just would have wished all the white bread characters would have gotten out of the way. And Dennis Hopper, again, I know that he had all this chemical dependence issues, and in the 80s he made a comeback. He always looked to me, and I'm not the one who said this, like he can't remember his lines, so he's just looking at – you can see like he's always looking to the left and his right, and it's like he's reading from cue cards. But he's not awake yet.
To be fair, that worked for Brando.
Did it?
That's what Brando did the whole way through Godfather. Everything was written like on people's faces, on like sticky notes and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
I guarantee you that shit happens a lot more than you would ever imagine or even
Johnny
be
Depp
able to accept. Seriously, yeah. And I mean, I was on set when they were filming Men in Black 2 in New York, and it was like when they were shooting in Grand Central Station, and the number of takes they would have to do because Tommy Lee Jones has to keep referring to the pocket-sized fucking sides for the day, because I'm like, dude, what? You had like one fucking, I mean, I wasn't part of the crew, but it's just like watching it, and then when you watch the final movie and you're like, he had one fucking line that he had to fucking nail in this one shot. And like they were there for hours. I left. I could have stayed till like 2 or 3 in the morning when they were done. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to catch a bus home. I'm just here with casting. Fuck this shit. I'm out.
Think how much the crew suffered on The Fugitive when he has to do that big fucking speech.
It made me question everything, like the whole ending sequence of Under Siege. To me, I'm like, this has got to be like strung together like the drum part of Civil War after they kicked Matt out of the band.
Well, let's be honest, he was fighting with Steven Seagal's stunt double. Slightly skinnier Seagal.
Yeah. But
they said the same thing about The actor who played Tyrell in Blade Runner 2, I think I read in one of the making of books, it was Dangerous Days or something. They said he couldn't remember a frickin' line at all, and everything had to be on cue cards right in front of him. And the guy really didn't have that much speaking parts. They said he couldn't remember jack shit.
We're totally destroying the magic of movies right now. We're saying anybody you respect, anybody that you idolize,
What we're here for.
They're most likely not much better than us. They just have better PR people. But then, I mean, like, well, then what about, is it a dirty word? Because I think what we're talking about, they did kind of deal with in the Resident Evil movies at some point. The idea of one of the doctors kind of trying to evoke memories of the past life. So are the Resident Evil movies like, have I just committed another fucking sacrilege?
I tried to Resident Evil movie. I have the box. But yeah, the problem with the Resident Evil movies, I don't know. They kind of start off with zombies, and then they go from zombies to dragons. And,
yeah, well, it becomes all kinds of weird. Oh, we're experimenting and making big monsters. Like, yeah, shut the fuck enough. It's crazy. But
I you were just saying that because there is a moment in one of the Resident Evil movies where there is a scientist who gives a zombie a simple child-like puzzle box to a zombie. Is like, oh, you're able to put the circle in the box and the square in the you know that toy.
Yeah,
and one of the zombies actually does it. But then as the scientist goes to congratulate him, the zombie just comes and rips him to shreds. And it's like, okay. And then that never goes anywhere because at least with Day of the Dead, Frankenstein still believed in what he was doing. And then secretly, we find that he's feeding, soldiers to the zombies. But there's a method to Frankenstein's madness. There's some sort of humor that Frankenstein still has lost his lid. He wants it both ways.
Right.
But there's a side the
Resident Evil movies couldn't. The Resident Evil movies couldn't hold on to a shot for longer than 5 seconds to carry anything further, though.
Yep. Donkey Punch for Life has just chimed in with the only thing memorable about the Resident Evil franchise is in the first one where Mila goes full frontal.
DP, I got you. I got you. Oh my god, yeah.
And he's just said that's the only shot they hold on to for more than 5 seconds.
And it's like it goes by in the blink of an eye. So the fact that they caught it at that angle, it's like, hey, we're gonna tape some paper over you, and that's gonna cover your hoo-ha for all of 2 seconds when you roll off this table. So we're actually gonna have a cooter shot in this PG-13 horror movie.
Yeah. It worked so well they did it in the last Resident Evil movie.
They redid it again. We haven't seen your vagina in about 6 movies. I think before we beat the franchise,
we'll do it again.
One more time.
But so now then, what about? I mean, the fact that he created the zombie genre with I would say The Walking Dead has kind of adopted the closest thing to the Romero zombie in a modern version of this genre. But then there's movies like World War Z, or even if you want to say that fucking movie that should have been about vampires but turned out to be about zombies called I Am Legend with Will Smith. And like once it becomes the computer generated realm, how does the zombie genre hold up? And I feel like, to me, Romero probably was just turning over before he even had a grave to turn over in when he saw that was being put out.
Is it just me that celebrated when Will Smith died in that movie?
Yeah.
Does he die in the theatrical or the special edition? In the theatrical one?
I hope it was in both.
He doesn't die
in general would be fine.
I think it was in the theatrical. To me, the Romero zombies, and if you want to go further, the Fulci zombies and every other Italian ripoff that came out since Dawn of the Dead was presented by Argento in Italy and all that. They scare me more than running zombies. I mean, if you want to, I don't want to get to that whole debate, but when I was a kid growing up watching these movies, I was scared shitless. I mean, yeah, they're just standing there, but just that thought, I don't know. Running is just like, well, hey, I can run 2 with a gun and bye-bye, motherfuckers. It just,
for me,
there's something more terrifying.
For me, the whole 28 Days Later, the zombies running thing, it just looks like people trying to chase the night bus to get home. So it's not scary, it's just creepy folk at night time.
Yeah, but as I said, they're not zombies.
Depends what they do.
I have hypothesis to all this. I think it's because It's not because of what happened with World War Z or 28 Days Later. It was actually in the 80s when John Russo, who co-wrote Night of the Living Dead, wrote the novel Return of the Living Dead, and Romero was like, okay, you do your thing, I do mine. And then Dan O'Bannon read the book, and of course he made the movie Return of the Living Dead. And Dan O'Bannon came up with this idea and said, I have nothing against what George Romero did, but let's be honest and fair. A slow-moving, shuffling zombie isn't scary, but a supercharged zombie running after you, that's when I first saw the zombies running after the humans.
Yeah.
He changed the game with that because he realized that, yeah, Romero zombies were scary. And even in Dawn of the Dead, they are equivalent of a wounded animal. I'm not going to take that away. Is that you think it's not dangerous, but then you go up to it and it still has some fight left. That's what I love about Romero zombies. But the Return of the Living Dead zombies, they're not only articulate, they can find ways to trap you and eat you. And I think that's what I loved about Tarman, and when the zombie cops are like, calling in more patrolmen, and then, they're flashing the lights and they look like they're okay on the outside. And then when the other cops get out, all the zombies are chowing down on them. Bannon did wonders with that one. And then less we say about the sequels, the better, because Bannon didn't really want to do any more sequels. But then we had Danny Boyle that, of course, did Trainspotting. So, yeah, I did like 28 Days Later to a point. But I feel everybody saw Night of the Living Dead and said, how can I do it better? How can I do it to a tribute to George? Funny thing is that there were movies kind of sort of before Night of the Living Dead, but they weren't as good as what Dead did because nobody knew why the zombies were coming out of the ground. We thought it's because of a satellite that had cosmic radiation and was bringing the dead back to life. But we don't know that. And even in the audio commentary, George won't confirm or deny that. But it just keeps us guessing and saying maybe that's what happened.
Honestly, go ahead. Sorry. Didn't mean to cut you.
But honestly, I don't really know or care why. And then it's even more interesting because there is some sort of hope like, okay, you're freshly dead or you're freshly corpse, you just shoot them in the head, they go down. Things changed where it was still breaking out and now it became a virus because that was a big thing, biological warfare. Kind of worked, but now I feel everybody's copying what Romero was just trying to say was just trying to make a simple film, and that's pretty much it.
Well, go ahead, dude.
Have you ever seen the film from, I think it's 63 or 64, called Nightwalkers?
No.
It's French, so I don't know what the original French name is, but the version I saw was called Nightwalkers. It was probably called La something, because that's what the French
something
like to do.
But I don't know
what the French you like to do.
I forget what walk. Walk to the French.
But it had basically zombies the way they are in Night of the Living Dead, but they didn't call them zombies. They just called them, the guy just called them Nightwalkers because it's a guy who suffers from sleepwalking. And he sleepwalks at his house, finds himself in the middle of the town centre. So it's this little tiny town. It's got like a park bit in the middle of it. And he realises that everyone in the town does this weird thing where they go out, sleepwalk at night, and they turn into like flesh-eating creatures. And it's why all these homeless people are dying in his town. So it's basically like Invasion of the Body Snatchers meets a zombie movie. Everything in French, so it's a bit fucking hard to follow.
Yeah.
Don't ever subtitles are shit on old
watch
movies.
that dubbed, man. Don't ever try to watch French shit with the subtitles.
I can't watch a dub movie because it's just too funny.
If you ever watch Brotherhood of the Wolf, I cannot do it with the subtitles. I need to take the dubbed version. I can't deal. I'm like, fuck, man. I didn't finish reading that paragraph. He just fucking barfed out.
I gotta be honest, I always feel racist if I don't take the subtitles. Because they're putting English words in the, foreign people's mouths.
Fucking body snatcher zombies don't care if you're racist or not. They're just going to eat you anyway.
To be fair to the French.
But like, to me, the one thing that I actually have is like a huge problem that I almost feel like is a big laziness. And that's why I would want somebody like Romero to at some point put a stake in the ground and give us the reason this shit's going on. Because as much as it's good development for like the first act of a trilogy or the first act if you're only doing one movie, have it be this mystery. And that was actually one of the things I really liked about what Danny Boyle brought to the genre. And I think it's good to be bringing new things, or at least trying new things, because it would be really ridiculous if everything was just trying to pay homage by just mimicking Romero. But the idea that you're just going to create this scenario that's going to spawn all these stories about trying to survive in this very unrealistic but sort of a scenario people have possibly imagined. There's a whole section in this book called the Bible about the apocalypse. But, you know, to just be like, oh yeah, man, you're never going to find
It's not like a very little known book, so I've never heard of it.
Yeah, no, I have not read it myself, actually. I've just been told highlights of it from different people who have conflicting versions. But I think, you know, even Kirkman says he never wants to define what started the outbreak in The Walking Dead. And for them to play around and be like, oh yeah, maybe it was a satellite. Like, dude, fucking at some point, you, in your mind, I would think as a creator, have to have like a strong hold on what the real thing is. Just tell us what it is for you.
I remember he was asked, and he said it was aliens that caused it.
He claims that aliens, they shot down the virus because instead of having them invade the Earth, they were just going to shoot down a virus and they were going to have the dead kill the living, which is actually based on a 1959 movie. I can't remember the title, but I do have the DVD. It's in my closet somewhere. But yeah, it's where aliens are resurrecting the dead. And then, of course, there's Plan 9 from Outer Space, which is pretty much the same thing. But if we talk about comedies, I guess we can't leave out Shaun of the Dead, where I love how they reference 28 Days Later, where they say, yeah, the virus was not created by a monkey with uncontrollable rage.
Rage-infected monkeys.
Well, Shaun of the Dead, I think, was probably one of the more creative. It's British humor. I love the fact that they fight a zombie with a cricket bat. Or I like the fact they're throwing the albums like, no, that's the Batman soundtrack. Yeah.
He's like, Stone Roses, no! And he's like, a Sade, I'll throw it. That was hers, throw it.
Yeah. That's the first album I ever bought. No, I mean, I like this, and plus the fact we have the voice of Darth Maul as a zombie, which is great. But
and they even do the "We're Coming to Get You, Barbara," but in a totally fun way. You know, a totally different way.
I mean, it's an awesome movie, and then, of course, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost had cameos in Land of the Dead as zombies.
Yeah.
You have to blink and you miss it. But there are satires out there. There's a really bizarre movie called Day of the Lamb to the Dawn, of the remake of Night of the Living Dead, where they took the original and they dub over the soundtrack and they just throw in Twilight humor and what. You can find it on YouTube. But I guess at the end of the day or night or dawn or whatever, I'm just going to binge watch the original. I mean, I can watch the original with the documentary and the commentaries. There's also Reanimated, where you have all these artists that, you know, it's like every frame, not scene, but frame, is reenacted with usually just either storyboards or Barbie dolls or Play-Doh. It's really, you can't really watch it. The commentary is worth it, but the artists pretty much just show a lot of storyboards. And again, they don't do anything with that Ben monologue scene about what happened in the diner. I was always hoping that they would do something with that diner when Ben talked about it. He talks about it in the original. He talks about it in the remake. They never do anything to show what could have happened. And I think there is a version where they were finally going to show it, but it never came to be. Final thing I got to say, though, if you've ever seen Night of the Living Dead Mimesis, it's pretty much a bunch of actors that are so enthralled with Night of the Living Dead, they kidnap people and they have them reenact characters. And they have other actors wear metallic teeth and bite into people.
Holy shit.
They're zombies. It's really, really awful. This
is like indie? Is this like a fan-made thing? What is this?
Oh, yeah, it's a fan-made thing, yes. It's a fan-made thing. It's pretty much there. You have these two geeks at a convention, and they have a George Romero knockoff. It's it's Captain Spaulding. I'll give you that. He's playing.
Oh, nice.
Oh, so thick.
Well, you think it's great, but the way he's acting, I feel like, well, if I do this role, then they'll turn the water back on in my house.
Hey man, shit, whatever it takes, dude. Whatever it takes.
But the problem is that he talks about how violence in movies is influencing real serial killers, which is kind of bullshit. But anyway, these hardcore Night of the Living Dead fans take the 6 people like Ben and Barbara and Hooper and everything, and they dress them up and they put them in the farmhouse, and then the other actors look like zombies, but they have metallic teeth, and they're actually using the metallic teeth to bite into people's flesh. It is so awful because there's no point to it. There's even a part where they kind of change the game, where they have the guy who's supposed to be Harry Cooper, and he goes into the truck, and you know how it's supposed to catch fire. And for 20 minutes, they're telling the actor, who is now dressed up like Cooper, don't go in the car, stay out of the car. And the guy's like, no, fine. No, you don't understand. They're reenacting the movie. Get out of the car. It's going to blow up like in the movie. No. And they're doing this for 20 minutes. And finally, after 20 minutes, the car goes kaboom. And the guy who's supposed to be Cooper comes out, and it's like, oh, my hand is on fire. Oh, and then he finally just slumps over and dies. It's piss poor. But that's the last thing that I know indie-wise that they've done with this, with anything for Night of the Living Dead. There's a lot of these Night of the Living Dead fan-made knockoffs to continuously discuss what happened with the original. Like,
see, I hate to sound like a dick, but I totally never count any of that shit as counting at all. No offense to anybody out there who's like doing that. I'm always just like, well, dude, you know, it's nice.
Not canon.
Yeah, exactly. Not canon. And I'm sorry if that's painful, but it's always like, you know, great try. I would never expect if I threw together something, you know, I would be more putting out there going, please don't sue me. This is more homage. You know what I mean? Instead of trying to be like, we're taking this and we're finishing the story. It's like,
to be fair, I don't count shit like Halloween Resurrection as fucking canon.
Well, at least it wasn't. At least what's her name was back for that, just to let the fucking character finally die. She was like, "This is it. I'm dead in this one. After this shit, I'm done."
I love how she always says, "I only came back so they could kill her off." Yeah. You fucking haggled for $1 million payday.
Well, dude,
Jamie Lee Curtis, yeah.
What about movies like Fido and Warm Bodies? You know, again, probably movies that wouldn't be able to even exist without the genre having been created, but a very different take, especially in Warm Bodies. I was like kind of almost disturbed by that one in some ways.
Warm Bodies, no, that was like a Twilight knockoff. Instead of vampires, you have zombies. And Fido is an underrated treasure that I don't think people really think too highly about for some reason. Fido, I think the problem was either people were sick of the zombie movies or they just were sick of Billy Connolly. I don't know what it was, but I sat through that movie and I was like, wow, this didn't get the appreciation it deserved. But Warm Bodies, they tried to make like Twilight. I mean, there's iZombie. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I have some friends that really follow that show closely, but I just can't.
Yeah, it's like zombies had just come out of nowhere because I guess it's easy to make. But I don't see what are the stories they could tell anymore. And as for Walking Dead goes, yeah, I watched the show before I started to read the comics because I was like, I don't know what you could do for like 700 episodes or issues or how many there were for I think there's like 160 something stories.
Now, yeah,
it's still going.
Episodes. But the problem is that Walking Dead has run into a wall where it's like, okay, now the humans are worse than the dead, which I understand, and there's all this social commentary that I could talk about for hours on that series, but Walking Dead ran into a wall. They don't know what they want to do anymore. And as for the comics, I think the same thing too. They keep trying to reinvent the new villain, which is fine, but they have to eventually end it.
Well, this is why I think it's bullshit when they say, oh, I never want to say why this fucking whole plague of undead started. It's like, well, dude, you changed the universe. You changed the world that these people live in. And if it's just going to be a repeated cycle of we find a new sanctuary, oh, shit, there's a big bad guy nearby that the people who were here didn't really tell us about until they showed up. Let's fucking kill them. But in the process, we wind up losing that shit. So we find a new sanctuary, and holy fuck, there's another bad guy like 10 feet away, and they never wind up finding a place that they don't walk away and leave it burning behind them. Like, it's always the perpetual action shot of the survivors walking towards the camera while wherever they had been camped out is just fucking burning behind them.
It is basically like the A-Team, but without the cool van.
Yeah, exactly. It's walking around and not showering, and
It's the
everybody's
same shit every week.
ass.
Yeah, my problem with The Walking Dead at this point is that you made it very clear. Is that first we have the governor, and then we have Negan, and my whole issue with Negan is that, okay, I get the fact that he's a badass, but now he's just killing people for the sake of killing people. What does Negan really want at the end of the day? And how much longer? I never quite understand why he's just going to the same group of people and saying, I want half your stuff every week, but they're running out of things to get. I mean, I understand they're around Virginia and they're around Alexandria and they're close to Washington, D.C., and they can't really go there because in real life, you know, George Romero couldn't do it. Well, actually, he did and didn't have a permit for it. That's a great story right there with Night of the Living Dead in Washington, D.C. But the point being is that how many times can you just keep giving somebody half your stuff and going, okay, and build an entire season out of it? And
I don't know. We should ask the American government. They've been doing that shit to us for a long fucking time.
Oh, that's true too.
Hey guys, how do you keep doing this to us? How have we not figured it out that you're neat?
Or any school bully.
Sure.
Yeah. I guess I kind of want.
You know?
I mean, I
But
think it's. Oh, go ahead, man. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
I haven't watched Walking Dead since past season 2, so you guys are spoiling it for me. Just saying.
well, spoiler, there were zombies in it.
I'm kidding.
I'm saying, do you care if you haven't watched it? So, like, to me,
No,
it sounds
I'm
like
in reference to what we were talking about. I really don't care.
pretty
I-
sure you're like, fuck it.
Yeah,
Not
the problem
watched
is
it.
with these zombie movies is that you have some interesting social commentary. This is something I used to do in high school, where, okay, it's the apocalypse, and you have a list of 100 people, and you can only take yourself and 10 other people, put them in a bunker to repopulate the world. Who would you bring and why? And it's okay for, like, the first time you have to do the assignment, but then you have to do it again in the 10th grade, and the 11th grade, and the 12th grade, and watch all these other sci-fi movies about the end of the world, and the doom and gloom is getting so friggin' boring. The world is going to end. There are zombies. The world is going to end. There are giant worms. The world is going to end. There are ghouls. I'm just like, I'm so tired of this post-apocalyptic shit. Either end the fucking world, or just like, I'm bored with it. Nobody seems to have a final answer. It's like, okay, well, we killed the bad guy, but what's our next step? We don't know. And so what I like about Night of the Living Dead is I just assumed any of the freshly corpses that came out, they're shot in the head, and everything is going to go back to normalcy, which it should. Romero, I'm assuming that when we watch these other movies, because they don't seem to take place in the same state, city, or area, or even a time zone, I guess is supposed to be the same. It's showing what's still going on, but I think at the end of the day, after like 6 months, all this is just going to be, you know, cleaned up and moving on, and, you know, there's no apocalypse. And if there is one, what's next? And nobody seems to have an answer for that. It's like, okay, what do we do now? I
What's
don't know.
next is the sequel.
Yeah, and what is
And then
this?
you start it again. You just keep doing the same shit because people will watch the same shit repeatedly.
Yeah, you blow up the world and you have the apes go back to Earth and then reboot the series.
Think it. How many sequels has there been to Friday the 13th? Like 40 at this point? And now they're rebooting it again.
Does Jason versus Freddy come before Jason Goes to Space? Because I think Jason X is the one where he's in space. So that's like 10. And then there's Jason versus Freddy. So I think there's 11. And then there's the reboots. There's 12. And Nightmare's got 8 plus the reboot. Plus Freddy vs. Jason, so there's 10 there. I mean, Saw. Weren't we talking about this recently somewhere? I forget where. Was it a show that's never going to air or something like that? I think possibly.
Yeah, sure, it's not going to.
So we can talk about it again here then.
Yeah, no one's going to know the difference.
Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah, it's. I don't know though. I think that's clearly to me why I guess I reject this. Oh yeah, we're never going to define anything, because it is, you're just leaving the door open to just keep repeating the cycle and have no consequences of it. I mean, imagine, I think, you know, there's all these rumors that Walking Dead is going to try doing a time jump to keep it fresh. Like, all right, now we're going to pull a move from Desperate Housewives. And we're going to jump time, and we're going to see older versions of these people, and then there'll be people who aren't there anymore without any explanation, and that's just how we're going to keep developing this world. And again, I would rather it just be like, dude, they figured out that there's a virus. Maybe they can actually create either a cure or a vaccine against the next generation being able to get infected with it. But either way, yeah, we shouldn't, as the audience, in my mind, have to do that much work. We shouldn't have to come to it and go, I'm just going to assume that as this ends, then this happened, and then this happened, and then everybody's okay. It's like, I think as the storyteller, there's a responsibility to at least push us in a direction that is enough of a direction that it's not like, all right, now we did homework. You know what I mean? Now we have to do homework to figure out what the rest of the story is.
I don't want my intelligence to be insulted. I like to keep thinking and have there's 900 different theories. That's what makes these movies still work and these TV shows still work. But the problem is everybody seems to be going back to what Romero did. If you think about it, even with Walking Dead with Negan and Rick, I mean, that's Cooper and Ben. You're the boss up here, I'm the boss down there. You know, it's always going to be. I mean, even Romero was asked to direct an episode of Walking Dead, and he refused. And I think Bub had a cameo on Walking Dead. You don't know what he played a zombie, but I don't think he said which one he played.
It wasn't even him. It wasn't even that actually the actor.
Oh, okay.
No,
well,
like I said, I saw him speak, and he said he wasn't even invited. It was just a prop or something. But
that's
side note.
Damn.
Oh,
yeah, that show.
Rude.
You know, you ever read any of those articles? They're very clickbaity, but they talk about all this shit that we don't realize about how low budge Walking Dead has to be sometimes. Like, full on.
Yeah.
There's a photo right in that doorway. The house they're standing in is completely gutted and empty behind it, but there's a photo of a fully furnished house. And I'm like, wow, that was awesome because this shit's being shot in HD, and it just went by, boom, boom. We didn't even notice it. You had to, had to be an asshole and point it out.
Yeah.
What's your fucking problem?
They cut the budget for Walking Dead. They seem to be doing it quite a lot the last couple of seasons, so they can't use as many zombies in the episodes anymore.
That's crazy.
If you actually watch like 2 or 3 episodes back to back, you'll see the same fucking actors because they've just used them in different scenes for the different episodes that are shooting at the same time.
Well, isn't that fucking crazy? The more popular and the more successful your show gets, we just keep cutting the budget back. Again,
that's money.
American government, fucking well done, dude.
Cut the budget, but you're paying the actors even more. So if you're thinking that the production budget is shrinking considerably with the actors' wages going up.
Yep.
That and it's shite, which will offend quite a lot of the audience of this show. Fuck it, it's shite.
Anything to have Jeffrey T. Morgan hear the sound of his own voice, I'm not complaining about. So, I mean, I can understand why there's more of Negan monologuing, but the problem is he's got to do something else besides just killing people and throwing them in ovens. That's all I'm saying. It'd be nice to get all up more.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan loves the sound of his own voice, and I fucking hate people like that.
Yeah, there are plenty of them. I think that he totally pulls off, though, a believability about him seeing himself in this sort of delusion of grandeur way of we are the saviors. We are bringing what you're used to back. And what you're used to is getting fucked in the ass by the people at the top on the regular, on the constant. You know why? Because they can protect you from the shit out there that you know is there and the shit that you don't know is there. So I think having somebody that has that I love the sound of my own voice quality to the way they speak is like, it's amazing to me. I guarantee that a lot of the audience isn't seeing this as parallels to how governments get set up and how corruption takes root even from the beginning. I mean, who could deny the idea that trying to be saviors in a zombie apocalypse is a good idea? It's a noble idea. But the second it fucking happens, it's like, oh, by the way, I want your wife and all the shit you have, and you have to earn points to be able to get pickles to put on your sandwich. You know what I mean? And it's just, if you wanted to be scarier, think about it as this is what's going to happen. You know what I mean? It's not entertainment. This is prep for later.
And that's what Romero was doing with all of his movies, was social commentary. That's what they were, first and foremost. They were basically political movies wrapped up with zombies.
And Romero doesn't feel that these were political or social commentary movies. It's just that after the first one, he said, oh, they are? Well, then I'll make them political and social commentary. But the problem is, I never thought of the original being that way, just that people were at the wrong place at the wrong time. Although I could say, and nobody seems to be bringing this up, but is Night of the Living Dead 68 science versus religion, because Barbara seems to be the mousy religious type who believes in the Bible. She's going to church. Johnny is not. And because Johnny skips church and Johnny doesn't believe in God anymore, that's why the zombie's going to come out of nowhere and take Johnny away from Barbara. And then Barbara just realizes, well, shit. Well, I guess there was a guy. He's vengeful, and now he's letting bad things happen to good people regardless, and that's why she has a nervous breakdown. Is this science versus religion?
I think it goes back to the idea of the slow zombie is the eventual creeping of death. You know, it's that we need, I think as humans, there's this theory that we need something like religion to be able to help us make sense of this world around us. And, you know, you may have to look at it as God works in mysterious ways and does bad things to good people. It's more like, no, shitbag, no matter what you fucking do, no matter how good you are going to die, and you don't know when it's going to happen, and you don't know how it's going to happen. And that is a scary fucking fact of life. If you sit and think about that all the time, this is why there are people who don't leave their houses. This is why there are people who develop these phobias that are debilitating. You know, the idea that there is this force that you are never, I mean, even in these movies, you eventually figure out you can shoot them in the fucking head. It keeps them away. You can take pills. Your body can last longer. But no matter what you do, it's going to happen. You're going to get surrounded. You're going to get killed. So as pious as you want to be, you may think of praying as the thing that's going to stop this one from getting you right now. But at some point, your prayer is not going to be enough. Your morality is not going to be enough. You're going to die.
Which is a cheery note to go out on, soon as we're celebrating a guy's fucking career after he died.
Just like Romero did. Oh my God. I'm so sorry, man. Rest in peace, George. Rest in peace.
We'll go a couple of quick questions before we wrap this up. I'll take one of DK4L's.
Yeah, buddy.
He wants to know, what do you think would have happened if George Romero had signed on to do Halloween 3 when he was offered it?
I did not know that. I think there would have been... he could have done another anthology, because at that point he wanted to continue doing anthologies. And I mean, the studio even said, John Carpenter said, I had no more ideas. And Michael Myers, I never really found that interesting, or the shape, whatever you wanted to call him. So Romero could have done anything with it. I mean, we saw what he did with zombies. We saw what he did with Fluffy. We saw what he did with cockroaches. Halloween could be anything that's scary. So why not do another anthology series, or do what that movie Trick or Treat was trying to do back in 07? I mean...
But Halloween, the interesting thing, I mean, it's interesting that they offered it to Romero, because Halloween is taking the zombies that represent the slow, eventual arrival of death and putting it all in one person. Instead of this whole group of people that's going to come out of nowhere and surround you, there's this one guy that no matter how fast you run, he is taking a breather. He's stopping at Starbucks, and then he's continuing, and he will get you. So, I mean, it would have been interesting. I think that Romero could have applied a lot of the way he would approach the zombies with Michael Myers, but he could have done what they did with Halloween 3 anyway, and could have made an army of zombie children. You know, maybe that shit would have.
Yeah, I'm guessing they wouldn't have jettisoned that plot, because they had spent a lot of money ripping that off from a Twilight episode. That's what it was. It was a script that got turned down for, I think it was Twilight or one of those shows.
Rod Serling was one of the most genius people ever to live on this planet. As far as art goes, and you know, I actually got to meet Jay Bonansinga, who's a novelist who's writing the companion pieces, the companion novels that go with The Walking Dead, and he said Rod Serling is the whole reason he got into writing. Like, Rod Serling made being the people who come up with things like this, like something that's just super fucking cool to do. And he was just so smart, you know, that so many things go back to Twilight Zone that it's almost like we should be doing tribute shows like this about him every fucking week. You know what I mean? Rod Serling is a hero.
Yeah. And I will end on this one from somebody who is called Fuck Nuggle. Fuck Nuggle. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to mean. If there was a zombie apocalypse, what would you do? I think I'd shit my pants, but that's just me. What about you guys?
What was the question?
If there was an actual zombie apocalypse, what would you do?
Take a bunch of sleeping pills and go to sleep. And not, I mean, it's not the zombies I'm scared of. It's the humans.
Kill myself.
Well, you know what it is? It's the humans that scare me more because it's King Smurf. It's like Papa Smurf leaves the Smurf village, and now the Smurfs are like, well, we'll do whatever we want, and they just create anarchy. It scares me. I don't care about the Walking Dead coming up to me. I'm scared that you have Negan, we have the governor that is just going to say, okay, I'm going to take this piece of land and call it Woodbury, but secretly I'm going to be having all these zombie versus human fights and anybody's. I mean, I wouldn't trust anybody because it's just without a real leader, and you need leaders, plural. You can't have one. And if you have this one guy who just said, well, it's an apocalypse, and I'm just going to go fucking crazy, I hate to say it, but a dead person's better than a live person or safer. I'd rather be the zombie. I'd rather kill myself and become the zombie. It makes more sense.
As you mentioned the Smurfs, what colour do they go when you choke them?
Yeah.
Does anybody know? Is there an actual answer on that one? Or
I think scientifically they go purple.
No, say they go bluer than they were. They get some red in their blood. It's a difference. I would fucking fight, man. I would try to survive for as long as I could. Fuck that. I'm not taking myself out of the game. I think I would not be doing this whole, anybody who comes along gets to be part of my commune. It's like, fuck you. There's a fence going up. There's some people that have already
built the wall.
Yeah, we're building a fucking wall, motherfucker. But I've already got friends that we've talked about this, that everyone's like, look, however bad it is, you can't just say we'd all automatically get to one person's place. Whatever makes more sense. We get there, we fortify, fuck everybody else. We'll grow food.
Yep.
We can all learn to live without meat. Fuck this shit. You know what I mean? Let everything die down for a little while and then see what reemerges. There's no point in trying to recreate the wheel. Just try to hold on. But I would not just jump in and become a zombie right away. I don't think I can't deal with that.
I'd grab my family and run. And like you said,
I think
just start over myself,
I think secretly I'd be quite happy because it'd be moral free killing.
Yeah, right.
That's a dream come true, right there.
Just living like creatures on this planet.
A big ass machete chopping folks' heads off. That'd be fun.
You gave me the intelligence to do this. I may not have claws, but I built them. I coated my skeleton adamantium, motherfuckers. You know what I mean?
So, everyone, let's go around the group again. Pimp your shit, and we'll hit the credits.
Well, HuntagaoCast, you can find over on Facebook.com, HuntagaoCast, Twitter, HuntagaoCast, iTunes, pretty much anywhere that there's a radio network, HuntagaoCast, where I just review comic books, movies, TV shows, anything that comes to mind. It's a grab bag. I'm not announcing anything. Just when you subscribe, bi-weekly, bam. If it's out there, I'm discussing it. HuntagFeedback@gmail.com. Drop mic, walk away.
That's a tough one to follow, bro. That was, Jeff, why don't you go, man?
Okay, well, you can find me on Facebook under Jeff Kakmarinsky or under my little tiny production company, Cellar Dweller Films. A little plug, since we're talking about zombies and Romero and stuff, if you look hard enough, you'll find a short film I made that explores what happens after a zombie apocalypse. So look for that. That's my version of what would happen afterwards. It's called Dead Therapy.
Nice. I'm David Clone from the Hollow 9 Network. We're soft launching our website, hollow9.com. It's the word hollow, the number 9, INE.com. So you can go check that out, where you can subscribe to all of our shows there. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Twitter @hollow9cast. You can email us. Actually, we have several email addresses now at hollow9.com. And you can still find us on iTunes, but our Podomatic feed got shut down because we're launching a new site. So that'll be where you want to go. You can also find us on Facebook. We're the Hollow 9 Network. And we're kind of doing the same thing, just chilling, talking about TV shows, movies, comic books. We're going to be doing some live streams like this, a little podcaster roundtable talking about the world of comic books. So, yeah, check it out. Be on the lookout. Lots going on.
And you need all those email addresses to keep 1 foot ahead of the law, don't you?
Yeah, well, you know, keep them guessing, man. Always keep them on their toes.
Well, it's been great having you all on. And to the audience, fuck off.